Hey everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. My name is Soleil and I garden in a Zone 5B in mid-Michigan, and today is our day to go around the garden and take a look at what's going on. I have done a little bit of work in the garden since we've last done a tour, of course. It's been a week. We have had almost probably an inch and a half of rain. We had a random shower today, and we're going to have a little bit of rain also tomorrow. At least it's in the forecast. You just never know around here. So lots of stuff has changed, I think, since last week, and I think you're going to really enjoy the tour. So let's take a look. So just starting right here, even in the potager, you can see that we have this strawberry sundae that has put on a lot of growth and a lot of buds. And this is a beautiful hydrangea that's going to be blooming soon. Oh, and wow, these 9 barks have really filled out. I have some trimming to do because I can hardly even get through these paths without having a little bit of foliage to walk through. But between the 9 barks and the gorgeous lobelia, I think it's just really pretty still, and I definitely enjoy this space. Well, as we do walk through the 9 barks, on the other side we continue to have the really beautiful ground cover over here, which is that Kent Beauty oregano. And one of the things that's happening right now that is gorgeous is we're having a little bit of play between that and the orange Potomac or Potomac orange snapdragon right here. Isn't that a beautiful kind of color medley? They just kind of fell over into each other, and boy, is that beautiful. Now, between the bracts of the oregano, there are also some very beautiful little purple flowers in there as well. So it's definitely in its full glory right now and is filling the space amazingly. It definitely fills out over the summer, so towards the end of the summer or the midsummer for me, it's definitely in its full glory. And you can see we still have some parsley going to seed over here, and the onions are blooming, and we have some tomatoes, but they are still green. We've had a little bit cooler weather because of the rain, so not a whole lot of red tomatoes, but we've definitely harvested some strawberries finally, so that's been fantastic. I am definitely going to have to thin out these irises this year because they are dense, aren't they? Look at that. And the sedum at the end is looking gorgeous. Now this pink mink clematis is still continuing to just shine. Isn't it beautiful? I love the way that it looks. It's beautiful little dainty flowers coming down and shining at us. And you can see we're starting to get a little bit of a mixture of seed heads and flowers. So we're probably a good midway through the blooms. There are still buds on here, and it's been blooming for a couple of weeks now. So it's a really good long bloomer. So pretty along that fence line. We have some additional Kent Beauty oregano down at the base of that, and you can see the pollinators do enjoy that as well as we come in and check this little bumble out as he's crawling around on it trying to get a little nectar out of there. And we have a nice little daisy right here. I am planning to do some additional work in this garden bed this fall. While it has definitely filled in, I have some different ideas about what I want to continue to do here. Not a lot of huge changes, but a little bit of spacing, and gosh, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see as it goes. The Pinky Winky hasn't opened up yet, but you can see the buds are really right on the verge of beginning to open. So I think we'll see that within the next few days. Everything's looking really nice and healthy over here, the phlox, and then we have in front of that some hostas. Those are the Patriot hostas, and they do quite well in the sun over here, which is not true of every hosta, but that one definitely enjoys more sun than others. So we'll walk over to the half moon garden now, and we'll take a look at what's going on over here. And as we do, you can see along the edge of the deck here, one of the black smoke bushes is starting to grow back. I had actually cut this one all the way down to the ground thinking it was dead, and it came back this year. And you can see I have deadheaded the Johnson's Blue Geranium here. It used to come all the way out and spill over the edges of these rocks, but you cut those all back and the center growth was just beginning to poke out. And with that wonderful rain, both that one and the one in the corner over here have really leafed out, and soon we'll begin to see an additional flush of blooms. Now the sedum and weigela that we planted in this garden bed are looking really nice, and that's the spilled wine weigela back there. And just a regular couple of autumn joy sedums with some salvia there. So that garden bed is coming along a little bit. I definitely also have some changes planned for this garden bed this fall. I still love to have the rose here, and yeah, I can't wait to share some of that with you as we do that, but that's probably going to have to wait until the weather changes. Now, I did find some Japanese beetles on the rose today, about a handful of them, and so we'll just have to start keeping an eye out for those and kind of hand pick them and smush them when they come. We don't have any blooms on this Rose of Sharon yet, but you can see it's just peppered with all sorts of buds, and right here you can see one that's getting ready to peep open. And this will be the Lavender Chiffon Rose of Sharon. So it's a really, really pretty one with almost double blooms. And that Red Riding Hood penstemon back here is looking absolutely gorgeous against the privet still. It's kind of got this like peachy corally tone to it. I wouldn't even have called it a red if I saw it. That wouldn't be the tone that I would consider it to be, but I guess it does have some red in it for sure. It's interesting the colors that people call things in the garden. Some reds are actually pink, some blues are actually purple. Everybody sees colors so different. This Tiantian Seven Sunflower right here has lots of buds on it as well. So that one is probably still a couple weeks out from blooming, but definitely on its way. And then we have a repeat of the Rose of Sharon over here with buds all over it as well. We don't have any buds opening up yet on these hibiscus, but they are all over this plant. So I expect by next week we will definitely have some gorgeous, gorgeous blooms on this. Our elephant ears continue to do well, and I'm seeing a weed make a little bit of an appearance here, so we're just going to pull that out right now. I wouldn't want to forget that that's there. And with the Kaya geranium and this new leaf beginning to open right here, they have made a nice kind of tropical addition to this end of the pool. And as we swing along the back of the half moon garden, you can see we've really started to get that nice flush out of the center of these Alchemilla mollis, or lady's mantle flowers. And it's actually interesting, you can still see some water on them from earlier this morning. They hold it so pretty, like little dewdrops on them. Yeah, so those are going to look really lovely once they flush out. And we have the Incrediball right behind it that is starting to grow on. Those have put on some good growth this year from the little tiny kind of cuttings that I had taken from the mother plant. And the privets just continue to provide a really nice glowing light here. And I'll just back up a little bit so you can see what this looks like from the back. So we have some really nice large stones as anchors on the back half of this moon garden. And if you stay tuned on this video, we hope to have some drone footage at the end. Now along the back of the shed, even though I had deadheaded this Boom Chocolata geranium, you can see it's already started to put up some new buds. So that should be opening again soon. And the Strawberry Sunday hydrangea right here is going to be opening soon. It's quite tightly packed, those buds on that one still, but I anticipate by next week they probably should be opening. We cut back these salvia really hard, and they are starting to put out some fresh buds and some beautiful, beautiful fresh foliage as well. This is another area that I have some plans for the fall. Do you guys think that far ahead? Usually about this time of year is when I start thinking about how I want to edit my garden and how I want to kind of move things or do a little shuffle or exterior decorating in the garden. Now above all of these plants, of course, we have the beautiful purple plum tree. And these hydrangeas over here really appreciated the water, and they are looking great. So voluptuous, right? The pollinators are all over those as well. And the pink diamond hydrangea standard over here is blooming. Isn't that gorgeous? I think this area is really starting to come together. I really love the addition of that Bar Harbor hydrangea in the hostas, and I'm looking forward to that coming back larger next year. But this pink diamonds hydrangea is a little bit more of a lace cap variety, and so it's a little more open and has more fertile flowers that are super available to pollinators, so they just love it. And they've been all over it. And this is the first year for this in the garden. I planted this last fall. I did come through and stake it because it was leaning to the side a little bit, and that was just bothering me. So yeah, I took care of that. And I think that these planters are looking super nice. They are very simple, but I actually really like that in this area because I want this to be nice and easy on the eye. I think shade gardens are very restful and peaceful, and so anything that you can do to make them feel kind of serene is nice. And I feel like if I made too many things in a basket, it starts to become a little bit busy. I was rather surprised to see this, but I'm actually getting a second flush of growth on this Scarlet O'Hara Pyrrhus, and this, or excuse me, Pieris. And this Pieris is probably going to get bigger faster than I thought it would, so I may have to do a little switcheroo here in terms of kind of it with the lungwort to give it a little bit more space between the rocks and the fence. Yeah, it's just growing a lot faster than I anticipated. I know this is a garden that has been evolving for a really long time, but I certainly have quite a few plants that are in their second and third year now, and being in their second and third year, they're starting to put on more and more growth each year. And so what that means is, as I have a tendency to ensure that the soil is covered by, you know, plant material, and I want to make sure that I have plants everywhere because I just don't like bare ground or like looking at, I don't know, big spaces in the garden. So in doing that, it just means that then I have to come through and edit out every fall. And so I start to think about what will come out and what will move. So much color in this area right now between the whites of the oak leaf hydrangea and the burgundy color of that garnet Japanese maple and the beautiful all gold Hakona Cloa grass. That just fills out so much every year. It's a little bit late in coming up in the spring, but it's definitely worth the color and that gorgeous waterfall of foliage that you get. And this Pinky Winky has really put on the buds this week. I am so excited to see this one bloom. It's going to be so much better than last year. It's definitely setting some good roots. Most of my hostas have started blooming. You'll see they're definitely in various stages. In fact, some to the point where I've even cut the blooms off. One of the last bloomers for our hostas is this Hosta Royal Standard right here. And it has some of the biggest, whitest blooms and the most fragrant blooms of any hosta that I know. And I just love it. So I highly recommend that one. Not necessarily for the foliage, although it is a nice, smooth, glossy, kind of limey green color, but because the blooms are so lovely. They just look like little white trumpets when they come out. Here's the Jetstream Oakleaf Hydrangea in bloom, next to some gorgeous blue hosta and Virginia. Now I want to show you, I did come through and treat my powdery mildew, so this is what it looks like after being treated. They basically turn to a brown, kind of crispy, dead, but we are going to be getting some nice fresh foliage from the base. I can already tell that they're starting to regrow. So it shouldn't be long and they should really come back. And yeah, the rain has definitely helped with that. This Brunnera has been gorgeous. Now I think I'm probably going to divide another one just to ensure that I can fill the space in here. They're obviously going to get bigger next year. Now I have my little hottie hydrangea. You remember we took some of the foxglove out of this garden bed, and in doing so, it really allowed this little hottie panicle hydrangea to start to put on some nice real growth. It has allowed it to get a little bit more moisture and a little bit more sun, and that's exactly what this paniculata hydrangea needs. And that is the Vision Astilbe that you're seeing back there. I know there is a Visions Pink that is lighter colored, but this one is just called Visions, and it's definitely a darker pink. See over here, we're starting to get some more buds on our Heaven Scent, our Polemonium Jacob's Ladder. And we have the other little hottie hydrangea right here, which is also having a similar reaction to the rain and the sunshine. I have come through and deadheaded my phlox, and you can see they're starting to put on kind of their second little flush of blooms there. Isn't this a gorgeous little plant? This was a new one to me a couple of years ago. Mucdenia is very similar to Virginia, and they actually crossed it, but you can see the beautiful little red tips on this one. It's definitely loving this space, and it's right next to the Queen of Hearts Brunnera. Now over here, a combination that I cannot ignore, and in fact am really falling in love with, is this hydrangea, which is the Cape Lookout hydrangea, and this Japanese tassel fern. There's something about it. It reminds me a little bit of like the Pacific Northwest or those Australian tree ferns that they have. And so I can't get enough of that. And I think it looks really pretty with the Hakona clover also. And we are getting a flower starting on the other hydrangea. So we've got two of them right next to each other for a little bit larger impact here. And I think it's going to be beautiful. So this is another Queen of Hearts Brunnera. It's a lot smaller in the pot, and I do plan to plant this one out into the garden this year. It's one of the things I love about having pots is that I am able to, grow on a perennial maybe during the season and have something beautiful in a pot, but then also being able to use it into the landscape at the end of the season. And that can make a difference with the budget as well. The beautiful Banana Cream 2 daisy right here. Really all nice and full. And let's just take a look at the dahlias over here that we have in pots by the pool. Now one of my favorite ones that I got actually by accident because really barely any of them were what I actually ordered is this one right here. I think it's called American Dawn. And just look at the colors on that. It's like a sunrise or sunset that's just so gorgeous. And the verbena has just gone to town now that it has gotten warmer and we've gotten some nice rain. So I can't wait to see more blooms of this dahlia, and I think I'm going to actually get rid of some of these that have these white tips on them, because something about them, when you look at them, they just look kind of sad to me. When you see them from far away, they look kind of wilty because of those white tips, and they look unhealthy, so I don't really like that. But you know, everybody likes different things. We have this nice little serene corner here where you have a little Buddha with this silver gumdrop heuchera, which is really a very, very unique heuchera. I really love the colors on this one, so I'm happy to see it doing much better at this point. Now, I haven't gotten any rebloom on the back to the fuchsia salvia, but I think I see a few buds that are setting on it. We definitely are about to get a full bloom on these hostas, which we get lots and lots of them when these come up. This is probably the most prolific bloomer that there is in the garden for my hostas. So much so to the point that when I have to deadhead it, it's the one that I don't like to deadhead the most because of how many blooms it actually has on it. But they're really pretty. They're such a pretty color of purple. And just look at what that looks like with that April night salvia, and then the firelight hydrangea in the back that's starting to bloom. Now this is its first full year in the garden as well, so it is just starting to open up its blooms. I really enjoyed this one last year, and I think it's going to do really well in this spot. And we have our apple tree back here that is espaliered. We have our little bags on our apples, and they're doing great. I don't know if you can see through the bags the way that I can, but they're probably about the size of a full-size plum at this point. And the pears are looking good in this bed, and we're getting some new growth finally on this one. I wasn't sure if it was going to put any new growth on this year, but you can see that nice bright orangey red new growth foliage. I did come through here and pull out the foxgloves because they were looking rather messy back here. I just didn't like them, and they were impeding some of the growth on this beautiful fothergilla. This is the Mount Airy fothergilla, and I love, love, love the fall foliage on it. So I'm hoping that by opening it up, it will allow some better growth on the fothergilla as well as this boxwood topiary right here. But everything else in this garden bed is looking fantastic. Now the soapwort over here is in full bloom, and we've got some beautiful Pikes Peak purple penstemon, and we're just to the point where we're starting to get some blooms that are going to open probably tomorrow on these daylilies. This is the storm shelter daylily, and boy is it dramatic. I can't wait to show you the blooms on it. I think I have some blooms going on up near the fountain, so hopefully we'll get to catch some of those for you today. But yeah, lots of buds over here. We've had a couple of blooms so far, but none right now today to show you, unfortunately. So this long border is looking pretty lovely. The grass is pretty green again, so that's always nice. It provides a nice backdrop for the garden when it is that way. We have our geranium back here. This is the Roseanne geranium, and you can see it starts over here and it traipses back there and it comes all the way around to here. So that's kind of why I plant it in the back, because it just is so lovely when it grows through things, and you just kind of see this ephemeral kind of beautiful growth. In fact, it's even coming up over this barberry back here. It's almost looking like blooms on the barberry, and it's so pretty that way. I just love how plants can interact in the garden. That's one of my favorite things, is playing with the colors and how the blooms interact with each other. Now I did make some changes over here. Those of you who follow me regularly might notice. I added some butterfly bushes next to this one. So we have some Pugster Blue butterfly bushes, and I'm trying to get rid of some of the container plantings that I have. So remember, I pulled some of them out of the ground this spring, and so I put them into a pot, and now I have put them into the ground right here next to the other one. And then I had divided these off of two others that were in the ground, and I have planted those back here. So I'm hoping that because this one has done so well in this area, that this is like the ideal grow spot for it. And that's one of the things I like to do, is kind of grow things in different areas of my garden, the same plant, and then I can find what place is the ideal spot for it without having to try it over multiple years. So I've had this plant in the ground for a couple of years in 3 different spots, and I think this is probably the really good spot for it. So next year I'm hoping to have a really beautiful large growth of the Pugster Blue here. I still think it's going to be quite beautiful this year. We have a ways to go. I also, in order to do that, moved some of the heuchera over. So we have kind of a more robust cluster right here of beautiful, colorful heuchera that just glow in the sunshine. I also had to move one of the teeny tiny buddleias that I had. So this teeny tiny butterfly bush on the right joined the one on the left. These are the purple chrysalis variety by Monrovia. And this was new last year. So hopefully we'll get some pretty blooms on them. They seem to be a little behind the other ones. All right, well, there is just a lot to show you guys today in the garden. It is just, I don't know, just so full of life right now after we got the rain. And you know, the rain just brings down whatever it does from the sky, creating nitrates for the plants to uptake and just making it an opportunity for them to really, really grow. Look at this vanilla strawberry hydrangea. Isn't this gorgeous? That is going to be really blooming next week. And we have the spirea that we moved over since our last video. If you recall, I talked about whether I was going to move it or do something else there, and I decided I really wanted to just move it and give it a little bit more space. But there may be some other arborvitaes that disappear in the near future. One of the things that I've actually really enjoyed is this red rose, surprisingly, and it's kind of hidden back here by this arborvitae. So we'll see what happens with that as well in the future. Not sure yet, haven't really decided, but I definitely want to give it a little bit more space so that we can really enjoy those blooms more. And the rudbeckia are just prolific. They definitely are an eye catcher this time of year. This strawberry sundae is much further ahead than all of the others, and it looks gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. We're definitely starting to lose the blooms on this clematis right now, but there are more buds, so we will see some more still yet in the future. I'm so really happy with what we've done over here in this area with the neon sedum and the limelight, and all the verbena that we planted are really starting to bush out. I trimmed off the tips of them so that we could make them a little bit bushier and be able to hopefully get even more blooms. And so just look at that black pearl heuchera next to that gorgeous hydrangea. We're starting to get some of the inner blooms opening, and unexpectedly they are kind of a bluish violet color with that pink. Do you see that? How pretty is that? I did not expect that. I thought they were going to be pink just like the rest of the blooms. I love it. Makes me like that plant even more. So things are just looking really healthy in the garden right now. And look at this quickfire hydrangea. Right, this one was one of the first ones to bloom besides the PG hydrangea. And it's just all lacy and looking beautiful, like a tower of an hydrangea. And we have some gorgeous lavender down at the base. And back here we still have our hostas, our autumn joy hostas, or excuse me, autumn frost hostas with the spearmint heuchera back here. And this is just a forsythia, but it has really gorgeous deep dark green foliage this time of year. You can see it's putting on just a smidgen of some new growth. Well, as we take a look over here, we have some daylilies that are in bloom, and this is a berry white hydrangea that is opening its buds right now, and it is just glowing a lime color. This one is going to be magnificent. This one is one of my favorites for the fall color. I think this one, the Diamond Rouge and the Firelight all compete for the beautiful, you know, deep pink, really, really gorgeous fall color. I think I called this orange smoothie. I think it's creamsicle. I don't know, you guys. I've had it planted for longer than I know what the name is. So sorry about that. Oh, here we go. Here is, it's not looking that great, but I want to show you what the color is of this daylily. So this is the one I was telling you about earlier. It's part of the Sound of My Heart. And this is called Storm Shelter. So that one's probably at the end of its bloom for today, so it's not looking as healthy as it could, but definitely looking beautiful. Some wonderful, wonderful vistas right now just to sit and enjoy in the garden, right? I hope you guys are enjoying your garden and taking some time to take a breath and in between the weeding and the maintenance and whatever it is that you do in your garden, that you're getting a chance to really come through and enjoy it. These planters have filled out really, really well, you guys. I'm loving them. We have the limelight hydrangeas with the sweet potato vine and the petunias. I think it's called Royal Magenta. And of course, our incredible hydrangea hedge right here. I mean, I don't know if you can call it a hedge. There's only two of them, right? But I do have a third one that's going to be coming on the end here. And I think that's going to look wonderful as it fills in that kind of area where we right now just have some of the Liatris spicata. And as we head out to the front garden, I just want to show you this pot with the neon sedum and the pretty little alyssum. And then we have the little hottie hydrangea with some gorgeously large buds. I cannot wait to see this one bloom. It was not in bloom when I bought it last year. I've only seen it in pictures and on the internet, so this year will be my first ability to join it. Isn't this one pretty? I like this planter a lot. So simple, just Angelina sedum and a PG hydrangea cutting. Well, y'all, we are out here in the front garden, and this is the Liatris hedge. Isn't it looking beautiful right now? The bees think it looks beautiful as well, and that it tastes wonderful. And at the back of the hedge, we have this Dreamland geranium and the Strawberry Sundae hydrangea. A beautiful little shade area over here in the corner with some hostas and the burning bush topiary, which I just have kind of limbed up so it looks like a small tree form. In fact, somebody actually asked me, what is that tree that you have there? Well, it's a burning bush. It was supposed to be a dwarf burning bush, but it's not so dwarf. So I've had to kind of figure out how to keep it in the garden looking lovely. And I think we're doing a nice job with this Eastern Snowball Viburnum right here in terms of kind of keeping it in check so that it doesn't get super big, but I anticipate next year will be a little bit more of a challenge. Just look at all those blooms, and it's just starting. We're gonna have a wonderful another week or two of these blooms to enjoy, depending on the weather, of course. And they transition so nicely over into the beautiful purpley pink of this garden bed as well, which is just covered in our echinacea blooms that we're starting from last week. Isn't that pretty around that 9-bark? This is the tiny wine 9-bark. What a beautiful combination now that it's tall enough to really provide that contrast to it, right? So, so pretty. And I can tell that the mums are going to start opening for me probably tomorrow. We have that gorgeous lobelia in the back. I actually had some blooms on my GM this week, and I see that there's another bud on it, so I can't wait to see more of those. I think they just were kind of shocked from, you know, being in their clearance pots and needing a little bit of time to adapt to their new surroundings. Look at that pretty little fuzzy wuzzy. Hello, Mr. Bumbo. We have fruit all over our crabapple now. This is the Louisa crabapple. And those will put on some really cute color as well. Right here, the Gara is starting to get really wild and crazy. It's a little bit hard to see, but hopefully you can, because it's so wispy and delicate. But in between those fronds and, you know, this beautiful seed heads of the true blue fescue, you can see we have some powwow wildberry echinacea and some gold star rudbeckia. And then of course we have some more coneflowers in this garden bed right here that are just starting to put on their blooms. But everything's looking really nice and healthy in here. I actually thought that we would see blooms out here on our Millennium Alliums, but they are still just working their buds up right now. And we do have some wonderful echinacea out at the mailbox garden bed as well. Now, the sun garden, you guys, this front sun garden, the Bobos. It's panicle hydrangea season, they're happening. I'm so excited. And the Dreamland geraniums, look at these Dreamland geraniums. Aren't those beautiful? I love the way those look. And the Bobos are like the toughest, most delicate panicle hydrangea ever. And just look at the liatris up against that oak leaf hydrangea and the blooms back there. And then we have the fireworks that are happening right here. What is going on? It is so gorgeous. Oh my goodness. Some stuff just happens overnight. And it's these moments as gardeners that we kind of delight in, right? When we come out to our garden, we go, oh my gosh, look at that. Did you see that combination? Did you see the way those colors looked together? Look at those colors. Our little dealy boppers in the middle with the Veronicas. Oh, these are the ever after Veronicas, you guys. They're still going. It's been several weeks now. Remember, these started blooming right in the 1st of July. This is good. You know how I feel about plants being workhorses in the garden. I think these are earning their keep. And especially during such a difficult season with all of the drought that we have had. Now look, the coneflowers aren't even blooming on this side yet. But remember how we cut the mums back and how we cut back the other Venice Blue Speedwell Or Veronica right here, like they're just these beautiful, beautiful mounds of foliage now, right? And look at these. The goldfinch daisies are just glowing. So, so pretty. Wow, I am really happy with these. Would you ever have told me 3 years ago that there would be a yellow flower that I just adore? I don't think so, but this one, I like this a lot. And our bobos on this side, they are definitely going to have smaller blooms, I think, than the ones on the other side. Either that or they're just really far behind them. They definitely get a little less water, I think, being so close to the tree roots. So I'm going to, continue to watch them and see if we need to move them forward a little bit or if they just are going to do better. This is really still like, they haven't been planted in this area for very long, so we're going to give them more time to adapt. And we finally have more than just one flower on this little pink scabiosa. And this pink scabiosa is finally starting to look like it might actually come back from the dead here and do something for us. So yeah, I definitely am going to add a division of that yellow daisy right here. That would be beautiful. How stunning is that right now? I feel so lucky. All right, let's look at the shade garden bed. Starting kind of with this porch area. My favorite part of this is right where we put these new hydrangeas. Again, these are the Cape Lookout hydrangea by Monrovia, part of the Seaside Serenade series. And this one is a little bit more of a kind of pink blush tone than the other one is because it's kind of been blooming for a little bit longer. But those are really, really gorgeous. And the rain definitely helped establish them for sure. I thought I was going to have to water them a lot after I planted them. This maidenhair fern is just so, so full. We have a couple sky pencil hollies back here. They're not super thrilled with their location. They've been doing okay, so-so, like they're not thriving, they're just kind of surviving kind of thing. They don't look awful, but I'd really like for them to be in a spot that, really meets their needs. So I've been thinking about those as well and where those might go. Our flax in this garden bed have gone over, but now we're starting to get some of the blooms from the liatris, and we still have the monarda. This is the Pardon My Cerise monarda, and back behind it we have the wee hosta, so you'll notice the frilly curly foliage on that. That is a hosta by Proven Winners that has been bred to have those really curly, cute leaves on it. And this monarda has been blooming for a few weeks now. Probably next week it's going to need to be deadheaded. This shade garden though has really appreciated also the recent rains. It has definitely perked up quite a bit. Look at how big this gold edger hosta is. Now if you look at the ones in the back garden, they're probably about 1/3 of that size because they get more sun. So here in the shade garden, where they get less light, they are actually much larger leaved. Some really, really beautiful hostas in this garden bed. And such a simple care. I mean, really, it's nothing at all to care for a hosta garden. So if you're looking for something really that takes care of itself, I would recommend hostas for sure. Unless, of course, you have a deer herd that is going to eat them all. In that case, maybe not. This garden bed I still have not come through. I definitely still have to trim this low growth sumac to kind of tidy it up a little bit and make it a little bit more dense. And I think it will look really nice with that. But I do thoroughly enjoy the edging of the garden bed with this Virginia right here. So I plan to continue to utilize that along the edge of this garden bed. Hopefully it will help to shade out enough so that the lily of the valley that's all throughout this garden bed doesn't take it over. We have our wonderful dealy boppers in this garden. Do you remember those, the little things that you wore on your head, the headbands with the stuff that stuck up? Dealy boppers. So this is a cute little bumblebee that we've got, and it is on the Verbena bonariensis that we have all throughout this garden. And all of the Verbena bonariensis that I have in the garden right now is the result of just one random seedling that I had in my plant pots this year. We're gonna grab this weed out right now. And as a result of that one little random seed, I took cuttings and put them into water, rooted them out, and I got all of the ones that are over by the can-do hydrangea. So that's where those came from. We have some really, really strong and bright colors on this side of the house. This faces west. And these are those deep red and orange daylilies. I have no idea what they're called. They are not what I ordered. But they're pretty nonetheless if you love those bright, hot colors. I finally got around to trimming the boxwoods in this garden bed. So it's looking a bit tidier. And we're probably going to be getting some blooms on these golden tiara hostas very soon as well. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this walkabout in the garden and enjoyed the tour. I certainly enjoyed looking around in the garden and seeing what's happening. And I hope your gardens are doing well and that you're not getting too much rain or too much drought, and that you're being able to just sit back, relax, enjoy a nice beverage in the garden and the fruits of your labor. You deserve it. Thank you so much again, and we'll see you next time.